3 of PitchPoint, with me, Mary-Jannet Leith. Now, over the next few months, I do hope to have many guests on my podcast, but at the moment, because of the pandemic, I'm going to have to stick to my husband and harpsichordist Thomas Allery. Today we're going to chat about live streaming. So, live streaming, why do we actually do this, Tom?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, at the beginning of the pandemic, in the case of our Ensemble Hespery concerts, it started off as quite an informal thing, really as a way of keeping in touch with friends and family, wasn't it? And then we eventually ended up giving weekly concerts through the summer last year. I guess, to me, as a musician, it's really wonderful to have something to aim towards.
Yeah, definitely.
It's great to have a little project for yourself to work on. Choosing some repertoire, choosing a theme for a concert, learning some new repertoire, putting it alongside something perhaps that you've learnt before, even engaging with some requests that have come in. But the whole thing is actually having a sort of a deadline to work towards, having an occasion to work towards. It's really wonderful and gives a great energy to the week.
It does, because, I mean, with the best will in the world at the moment, during this pandemic, it is really, really difficult to motivate yourself to practice if you don't have something to practice for, isn't that right? And we just love keeping in touch with people around the world. We've got quite a big online audience now, Australia and Brazil, Uzbekistan, all sorts of different places, and it's just really lovely to be able to keep in touch with all these different people. So although we were a bit nervous starting out live streaming, definitely, now we've done it for about almost a year actually, we can definitely sort of recommend it as something to do if that's something you're interested in. But it does in fact take quite a bit of preparation, doesn't it?
It does indeed.
We're laughing because even for today we had to do quite a lot of preparation. You see here a very clean and beautiful harpsichord with some tulips and us very nicely turned out. And what you don't see, what don't they see, Tom?
Well, what you don't see is the fact that loads of things have had to be moved to just out of shot in our front room. And basically the whole room is surrounded by things plugged in and attached with USB, lots of cameras and wires. We've got separate audio compared with visual, plugged in to do different laptops. It's quite a lot of different bits of paraphernalia.
So what we're looking at is very different from what you can see. And yeah, it involves quite a lot of different preparations. So for example, today it's very dark outside, it's raining. And so we usually rely on a bit of natural light from our living room window, but not the case today. So we had to put on every single light that we have, and we've even got a lamp that you can see out. In fact, you can't see that outside of shot, which is giving even more light than usual. And then, of course, we have to make sure that the heating is right temperature if we're doing a concert. Tom has particular difficulty keeping the right temperature for the harpsichord, don't you, Tom?
Well, for harpsichord tuning, you want it to be as good as you can with harpsichord tuning. Obviously, we want the recorders as well to be happy in terms of heat, so this varies through the seasons.
Yeah.
But you don't want it to change too much once you've tuned, because otherwise it might affect the tuning. This sort of thing, and of course this also depends not just on the heating of the house, but the general humidity.
Exactly, and whether it's raining or not. So all of these things are not really in your control to some extent, but you do have to try and prepare for them.
Exactly. And you've got the musical preparation, of course.
Not to mention the musical preparation, which we'll talk a bit about that later. And what else do we have in terms of tech? So we have to, at the moment, usually for our live streams we have our computer, and we're streaming through YouTube using a streaming key which we put into a software called OBS, and it's really easy to use. I'm more than happy if anyone wants to ask any questions about how to set it up. And you can put into OBS your camera. In this case we've just got a Logitech webcam that's really good quality, and also a mic. You need a good mic. That's almost more important than the camera. Tom, maybe you can talk a little bit about the mic we use, because it's really important.
Yeah, well, the microphone that we use is called a Q4N. Made by Zoom. And it's actually got a video feature on it, and sometimes we use it to video record concerts, but in this case we're actually only using the microphones from that. We're not using it as a video
and
thing.
It's very good. I mean, it has been a bit temperamental recently, but it's in general a very solid piece of kit, the Zoom microphones. So there we are. I mean, that's just some of the preparation that we have to do before live streaming. It sounds a lot, but once you get used to it, it's not too bad, is it?
Exactly.
Well, we hope you enjoyed that. Now, with live streaming, of course, there's no point in live streaming if you are live streaming to nobody. How do we make our concerts kind of public? How do we let people know?
Well, there's quite a little bit of work behind the scenes again on
Yeah.
that. And that's mainly not so much on the day itself, but in the week leading up to it. There's quite a lot of work on social media required across different platforms of social media, of course. I mean, we're not experts in social media by any stretch of the imagination, but one has to engage with all of these different platforms as much as you reasonably can.
Yeah.
Because different people hear news in different ways.
Exactly. Some people like to book at websites, always having a mailing list with all your keenest supporters on it, and try to get people to subscribe so that you can tell them about your live streams. It seems basic, but actually it takes a lot of work, so sometimes you forget about it. I've definitely come to the day before the concert once or twice and gone, oh goodness, I haven't actually sent anybody the link. So yeah, you know, that's one of the many things that needs to be done. Also replying to questions from fans, which is really important. You want to make sure that you engage with people and keep people interested.
Yeah, we're lucky. We've got so many lovely friends
exactly.
who are often in touch with us, and that's a great blast.
It's
it's
really
wonderful.
good.
We've had some brilliant sort of requests that people have sent in. Some
Exactly.
of you watching you might know who you are.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really given us some sort of new avenues to explore and some new challenges, and it's been fantastic.
And with early music, of course, a lot of people will want to know what the piece was and where they can find the copy or an edition, and maybe something about the composers. So again, we like to always introduce our pieces with lots of interesting information to liven things up a bit. But not, things go wrong sometimes. What can go wrong?
We were just talking about this before we pressed record, and we were thinking that was quite easy to think of the things, because basically there's so many different elements to it, that there is the potential for things to go wrong. Your Wi-Fi could go down. We've been quite lucky so far with that. Yeah. We've had building works outside our house, and we've had several concerts where I've had to effectively barter with the site manager to get them to stop in time for the concert. That was quite a fun period.
It was a fun period. The doorbell can ring with your Amazon or other type of package coming. Your mic can go on the blink. That's happened a couple of times. What else?
Well, there was a when we were using Facebook, we had quite a big challenge with the syncing up of the sound and the microphone.
Yeah,
As you were just hearing, we're
yeah.
using a separate input for the visual, the video, compared to the microphones that
Yeah.
are doing the sound, and they have to be matched up so that your fingers are moving at the same time as, so it sounds like it's the real thing.
Yeah.
And that's actually trickier.
It's
than
very
meets the
tricky to
eye.
get those to match up on Facebook because it distorts it a bit and it's not always the same each time, and so that was very stressful. But things go wrong, but it doesn't really matter, does it? And I think the worst thing is if you get into a bad frame of mind because you get stressed by the thing that happens, and then you can't concentrate on the actual music, and then everything goes to pot. But we can always edit it out on YouTube afterwards. So that's always a promising thing to be able to do.
And at the end of the day,
It's
a
live.
live performance,
It's live,
and that's really
yeah.
the joy of doing it. It's so different in every way than recording some performances that might go out separately,
It's
when
very
you want it to
different.
appear very perfect. At the end of the day, this is meant to be live. I think that's what is so enjoyable, not only for people watching, but for us. It's enjoyable to know that we're actually engaging with people at the time.
At the time.
And
yeah.
it's live music, so things can go a little bit wrong.
Exactly. So anyway, you can tune in on Wednesday lunchtimes if you like to Ensemble Hesperi, and see if you can see anything going wrong. Well, thanks for joining me, everyone. And tune in next week when we'll be chatting about the highs and lows of running an early music ensemble in the UK today.